So happy to be here with you, Rachel, talking about longevity and the change of seasons and how our body is speaking to us and whether or not we can be present with it all and flow through it with grace and ease.
That's the challenge, right? Yeah, that's the challenge. I love it, yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting right now with the light changing and the temperature changing. It's so visceral, and yet we're speeding through our days. And I just got really tuned in yesterday to this cleansing period, this transition between summer and winter. And it really prepares us for our aging process when we can cleanse. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's older than me, and she was talking about a juice cleanse or this cleanse. Like, I think the way we think about cleansing in our culture is really depleting.
Yes, the depart
And
yes, stripping. It can be very stripping, yes.
And you and I have done these cleanses for decades of just the master cleanse,
Hardcore, yeah.
or just water, or just cayenne lemon and honey or maple. And then we did the green juice cleansing. Like, we've gone through all these phases of interest. Maybe we're just going to do raw food. And as we've gotten older, and I've worked with thousands of people, in these kinds of fasting mindsets, which have reversed diabetes and cancer and heart disease and can be very useful for different healing crises.
Mhm,
And I think from your orientation with traditional Chinese medicine, you understand this concept of depleting versus restorative cleansing.
mhm. Yes, absolutely, and I do feel like, we were just chatting on this right before we hopped on the call of where we are in society is that most people are coming to the table, they're coming to their day already in a state of depletion. They're already exhausted. They're already feeling the adrenal fatigue, the brain fog, they're not sleeping well at night, and maybe they're having a lack of passion in their lives because they're not feeling that juicy vivaciousness that comes from a really deep, full rest. Maybe their digestion is off, they're not eliminating twice a day or at least every day. And so all of these things really play a huge role in our productivity and being able to be the best version of ourselves as we move through the world. And so I feel
Absolutely.
like, yeah, the cleanse that you offer of, coming from the tradition of Ayurveda, where there's more gentle cooked foods and you're really supporting the body versus depleting that stripping, the cold juicing. And I agree with you, it does have a place, right? And that's what's so important of having this information and having a coach and a guide and a mentor and a practitioner that has had so much experience with this that we want to be around for a long time, right? We're aiming for the longevity. And now it's more about like, how do I live my life feeling good, coming from that place of nourishing and nurturing myself so that I can be the best version and I'm able to serve others and be in the world. So, contacting you and contacting me if people have more questions about this. And especially if you're experiencing any of those symptoms I described, you want to be really careful, Yeah, like you said, both you and I have done cleanses where it was like, what the heck was that? I feel worse. And then it will even say, like, in our culture and community, we'll say, like, oh, we need to do another cleanse. And it's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, I've done some radical stuff, and I'm sure the people listening have too. And what you find is you get that like pasty color in your skin, or your eyes look sunken.
Mhm.
And you do have to go through that period of, depleting the bacteria in the body. And so they die off and new ones can be born. So there is like a lot of research on fasting. But what I've noticed is the people around me get really depleted, like you're saying. They're living on cafe lattes, and just feeling low on energy has become the norm.
Yes.
And the signals of our bodies, like of our cycle, of not sleeping well, like you spoke about, it just becomes normal. And I want to like say that that's not normal.
It's
And we
not
can
normal.
age more gracefully and stay on top of our detoxification process without depleting our bodies. And so I like fasting over longer periods of time now, and fasting looks different for me as I get older. Someone explained to me once, and I really resonate with this because I went on this first time I got introduced to this Ayurvedic cleanse. I was like, I have to cleanse from this cleanse. Like, this is not like we're drinking ghee.
I
Like, I'm
remember you
vegan.
saying that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was like, this is not
I
happening.
yeah.
But anyway, it's true. It's like, fat combines with fat and helps you to release the toxins, which I thought was just a totally revolutionary concept that, of course, is thousands of years old. It was just interesting.
Right?
Water soluble toxins, can be released through water soluble, approaches, right, with juicing and things like that, and extra water and whatnot. And so, abstaining from certain foods so that you can optimize the functioning of your liver, your kidneys, your large intestine, and of course, your brain. Come to find out, your brain is detoxing at night when we sleep. So, if you're not getting deep restorative sleep and waking up feeling rejuvenated, chances are you got to like spend more time exploring how you can increase your depth of sleep.
Yes.
Um, it's so critical for our longevity, for the aging process in general, for the disease processes. I mean, did you know that Alzheimer's disease is at an all-time high and it's predicted to be, skyrocketing? And what
Aw,
we're seeing
yeah.
is really like metabolic dysfunction on so many levels.
Right, right, right. And
Yeah.
I feel like one thing that's coming through that we actually touched on too in discussing is that, when you're really coming from a place of this concept of longevity, like how can I live as long as possible to do the good work? So that means I want to go for, it's like the old story of the tortoise and the hare, right? I want to go slow and steady. And how can I nourish myself in this? And as you get older, really moving into that deep wisdom of expanding that space for yourself where you're filling that space with abundance, right? So it's this process that starts to happen with the psycho-spiritual aspects of our being. So we take baby steps and we say, I'm going to nourish myself, right, through this cleansing process. And then we become more empowered and we become stronger to say, hey, maybe I'm going to take this day off to just do whatever I want to do, right? Just to follow that innate wisdom on how to move in the world as I want to, because we have that strength and we're empowered to make those choices and decisions. So I feel like, especially for women, I mean, men too, but I feel like, especially for women, I just get, and I know that you feel the same, I just get so impassioned about supporting other women in this. It's like, if you're making decisions coming from a place of feeling depleted, your decisions are going to be depleted, right? If you're making decisions and you're moving in your world, should I do this or should I do that in my relationships or in my business? If you're already coming from a weak place, then your decisions are going to be weak, right? And you can not make the best decisions and not make the best and the most successful in your life. And I feel like for you and I, that's really the core of our message that we want to bring to the world. It's like, how can you be so strong and so vital and so clear that you are going to see your path and you're going to make your decisions, with kindness and
Yeah.
generosity and
Yeah.
grace, to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. But if you're weak and somebody's offering you something, you'll just be kind of weak and like, okay, we'll see. You know,
Right. And I
People's
think that
done
there's
that too. Yeah.
totally. Well,
Yeah.
I think, and then there's also like, where do you get information from, and how do you know you can trust it? And I think there is a vulnerability in that that can cause weakness and indecision, and oftentimes indecision leads to no action. And it's really important that you feel empowered and you feel like you have some people that you can trust around you who maybe know more than you. And that's why getting supported by people who have experience is really critical. And, there isn't like a one size fits all approach. And,
Mhm.
and I, it doesn't matter who you talk to. I mean, there are some basic things like drink adequate, liquids, sleep, adequately at night. Like there are some general rules that you can follow, like eat, plants, eat whole foods, like these are general ideals and ideas.
Mhm.
But like whoever taught you how to read those signs in your body? I mean, I think our parents, our mothers and grandmothers tried to teach us that, but it seems as though the busier I get, the less I'm tuned in. And then I'm like, I'm actually not feeling well, or I'm not sleeping well, or I don't feel that energized today. And it does take time for me to step back and acknowledge that's what's going on.
Yes, and I
And
feel
then
like
like
really
then
being
there's like, oh, I don't have
honest.
time for this. And I have like shame around it, right? So
Yeah.
going through that process of like acknowledging where you are, accepting it, and then feeling empowered around the decision that you're going to make a change.
Absolutely. I do feel like that comes from, our society and our culture and the history of women and giving ourselves a freaking break. Like really coming from this place, when I go into shaming myself about some decisions that I've made, I've trained myself to be like, well, wait a minute. Like, let's take a look at that, like, let's take a look at really what's going on here, and that I do, and I feel like I would say everyone is, right, doing the best that they can. They're showing up with what they have in the best way that they can. And like you were saying, like, our grandmothers and mothers did the best that they could, but that wasn't really offered. And especially if you were raised in public school, the public school was all about like, you know,
Performance, yeah,
yeah,
getting an A.
performance and quiet down. Like, it really taught us to have this disconnect. It was like crowd
Yeah.
control, it was just, "You be quiet," "I don't have time for that," and so starting this, unraveling and also this ownership and responsibility for whoever's listening to this, you know who you are, that it's your responsibility, it's our responsibility. If it's resonating with you, what we're saying, then it's time to really step up, right? It's time to really step up and in and being the best version of yourself so that we can change the world for the better. We have the potential to do that. So, and we live in a very comfortable society. I get it. It's not easy. I want to be comfortable and have my latte, and it's really up to us, to like step into that responsibility. It's like it's not as much about ourselves, anymore. And we know, that the collective and the one consciousness, so how we show up is going to affect everyone ultimately. But I really just, I'm feeling like there's a call to action that you and I are imparting on. It's like, do something small, baby steps, right? So a call to action. So if you're listening to this, talk that we're offering, and there's also, if you contact either one of us, our contacts are here. If you found this video and this information, you can reach out to us and find us. And, maybe taking that baby step. It's like, I love what these women are talking about. I don't even know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do something, So
Mm,
contact one of us and we will help you, or we will find somebody to help you. We will point you in the right direction,
100%.
but where there's so much information these days that are coming out. And like you said, it's really challenging, to find the right person or listen to the right thing. And so
Well,
you know who you are, right? Yeah.
yeah. And there's like this integration period that I think now, because we have so much information coming at us, we're consuming so much information and food and things and toxins. It's like we need time to integrate. We need
For
time to
sure.
like you said, step in and through, and then to be supported along the way. We're really not meant to do any of this alone. We need each other,
Yeah.
to give each other feedback and to upgrade and fine tune and whatnot. And it's really valuable,
It's
especially
really viable. And this
yeah.
thing about being healthy and, like I went to this women's herbal symposium, and it was so lovely that I was in contact with this group of women that have been going for 20 years. And, you know, the way that they loved me and supported me felt so good, in some things, that had happened and that we did and all this. And I remember one of the women going like, I think Rachel needs to be nicer to Rachel. And she just said it in a very subtle way, kind of in the background. And I was like, how blessed, what a blessing to be around somebody who's noticing that. And again,
Yeah.
it's like feeding ourselves to be in relationships and be in business and be in the world where that's what we're attracting, right?
It's
Our
such a beautiful message.
Yeah, that
And
somebody's gonna say that and support me in that way. So somebody
yeah.
who's not nourishing and nurturing themselves isn't gonna have the energy to notice that, to send the love to me. And so this is so important. I feel so empowered and, excited by this conversation. I feel like it's a
Yeah, the women listening or the people listening, and I'm sure we can all take that in, like to be kinder to ourselves, which doesn't mean complacency. It doesn't mean laziness, or inertia, right? It means actually being so kind and loving to yourself that you understand and accept and acknowledge and are able to let go of things. And it's just like you were saying in our school system, it reinforced this. And that's part of this whole ideology behind the depleting cleanses and behind us thinking we need to work hard to age well. And we just need to change some things, like you said, small steps, and making sure that the time that we do have is spent really well in terms of nourishing our bodies, like you were saying, getting enough time in nature, exercising. And these are all things we're going to be teaching at the yoga workshop that we have coming up, that we're going to be teaching at the retreat that
November
we're going to be
3rd.
hosting.
Yeah, and in Santa Barbara, that's on November 3rd. And then our retreat is coming up right after that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, yeah.
So taking that time for yourself with people who are knowledgeable is really key
It's
for,
huge.
yeah, for us too. I mean, we do it
Yeah,
too.
for us too, absolutely. And there's a mantra, and I'll put this in the newsletter with the next, theories that we're supporting people. Is there's a mantra that I've been working with recently, and it's so good to have a saying and have a mantra and have different tools, and that's what you and I, with all of our decades of experience, we have an enormous tool bag where we can pull things out at the right moment, that are appropriate. And so I just love the recipes that you offered. We put in last newsletter. We didn't do a yoga pose restorative, but we're going to do that. This one, I feel like it's going to be well, you would know the Sanskrit, legs up against the wall.
Viparita Karani, yeah.
Yeah. Can you say that again?
Viparita Karani.
So beautiful.
Yeah,
So
that's one of my, yeah, absolute favorites. I did that one for almost 20 minutes yesterday. It was
Ah,
really,
so good. So that's just the restorative longevity. And it's so
mm,
challenging for us to spend that time. So we're going to put that one in the newsletter. And we're not going to have any recipes this time because we're catching up with the other one. I just want to give people time to really
yeah.
embody that. And then a mantra that I've been using, that I wake up in the morning sometimes and I'll have that kind of sinking feeling, where you wake up and you're just like, whatever that is, it's just so fascinating being human. And yet my life is beautiful, wonderful. I have everything I need. And sometimes we wake up and we're just like, get that ick.
Hmm.
I will shower myself with love. I love you, I love you, I love you. And then I say, I am who I am, and that is enough. I am who I am, and that is enough. I am who I am, and that is enough until I really feel it. And I do have this very driven, as you do too, Helene, this very driven character that I want to do all these things. And I will kind of have this little argument with myself when I say that, even we're like, well, you didn't, what about this? What about that? And to remind ourselves, like, we can always do more. We can
Yeah.
always do more, but do we have the strength and vitality to do less, to really take it back and really feel into this mantra? I am who I am, and that is enough, simply by being, just by being, right? It's not the doing, it's the being, and that is enough. So
Mhm.
I just want to invite our listeners and viewers to that That's been really powerful for me the last few weeks. Do you have
So
any favorite
beautiful.
mantras that you love that you work with?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really, yeah, you could say it's a mantra of sorts. I have several, but the one that I very well is your daily practice is your strongest medicine, and whatever we're practicing, we're strengthening. So, if there's a thought that keeps reoccurring that you need to process or let go of, or an emotional state that keeps coming up, or if you'd like to practice something differently to create a different outcome, like for me, going to bed before 10 p.m. has been a real goal. And it's not always easy because there's so many things that I want to fit in. And
So hard.
yeah, but if I practice going to bed after 10, then I'm going to strengthen that. And I want to strengthen the opposite of that, right? And so I'm just really honest and clear about what I'm practicing, I'm strengthening.
Yeah.
And that could be, for weight loss, eating less of this and more of that, and so on and so forth. So it just really depends on where you are and where you want to be, and then what you're doing, what you're practicing, what you're doing, and who you're being, and how that's creating and
And
generating the
that just
results in your life.
And that just supports that abundance, fullness, making space mentality versus the deprivation and the lack, right? And I just feel like that is so vital. So, years ago, I was drinking, well, I mean, I still drink coffee every now and then, but I was drinking coffee at a gathering I was working at. And I was like, I hadn't been drinking it. And then I did. And I got kind of frazzled. And somebody said, when I feel like that, I put a little bit of ghee in my coffee, right?
Mm.
And so instead of getting into this deprivation of like, I can't do this and I can't do that, I can't do this, right? It's like, how do we move forward in our practice of ourselves, really inviting these things in to nourish ourselves versus cutting everything out? It's really a balance. But I love that because the focus is so positive. And it reminds me of a saying that, for us that are doers, 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 and have challenges being, even if it's practicing our own self-care. I love this saying that I heard recently, and it's self-care is healthcare.
Yeah.
Self-care is healthcare. Can you give yourself permission to take 30 minutes to do your self-care routine? I am challenged to do that. I literally want to do it in 2 minutes or 5 minutes. And then once I get going, I kind of judge myself if it takes too long. It takes that long. It takes that long. And so
Yeah.
we are going to include all of these nuggets and we're going to sign off and say goodbye. And until we see you all again, stay well, reach out, stay connected. We love you
Stay
very
kind.
much. Exactly.
Oh,
Bye for now.
bye for now.